2021. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. 1, this meeting is being televised by Peabody Access Television on cable channel 9. 2, real-time public comment during this public meeting can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make comment or questions to the chair via the audio option. Please visit www.peabody-ma.gov for Zoom information. The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here is the motion from Councilor Gould to approve the record. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. I just want to note that this evening we have all councilors. Councilor Welton will not be here this evening, so we have 10 of us this evening. All right. Moving on to item 4A, hearings. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, May 12th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Scott Crooker, 126 Farrell Road, Lynn, Mass., for a special permit requesting to operate a tattoo establishment at 2 First Avenue, Unit 101, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you. Would the applicant please come up to the podium and just give us your name and address for the record, and then if you just press the button, and then just a brief summary of what you're trying to do.
Hi, I'm Scott Crooker, 126 Farrell Road, Lynn, Mass. Broke it too? No, I'm kidding. So I'm coming to you guys. I already operate a tattoo shop. We're moving 5 minutes down the road. We just need more space, and you find me back again.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of the applicant? Anybody wish to speak in favor? Nobody is on the Zoom. Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive late 7 from the collector's office and refer to this public hearing.
Motion from Councilor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8E from the Health Department and refer to this public hearing.
Here's the motion from Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Turco.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of you may remember, we approved Scott Crooker for his special permit, which was located at 145 Summit Street, the Summit Street Plaza. I believe it was kind of right above Rizzo's Roast Beef on the second floor of that building. It's been about 18 months. In the beginning, Scott did the right thing. He wanted a larger space, but he wanted to be responsible and make sure that this could work in South Peabody. In 18 months, he's proven that it could work. He's been very successful. Been no issues. I was actually at his current location on Summit Street. He did an unbelievable job renovating. There's some nice artwork on the walls, and I'm confident he'll do the same over at First Ave. And First Ave is the Kevin Lucy building, which is Centennial Crossing, just-in-time cafe area. It's in the rear of that building. It fits with the other businesses that are there. There's some microblading, which I guess that's kind of like a fake tattoo type hair that they do there. Some tattoo makeup studios back there, hair salons. So I think the tattoo parlor will fit perfectly back there. There's ample parking, as you can see by the site plan. The only change from the current permit to his new location is he added an extra hour of time, and he was only restricted to the 9 p.m. on Summit Street because that plaza generally closes at 9 p.m. This is different over on First Ave. Those businesses stay open a bit later, including the convenience store and some other businesses in the rear. So I would support the permit, and I'll open it up to the council.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Turco.
Move to close the public hearing.
Hearing the motion from Councilor Turco to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to approve the application from Scott Crooker, 126 Farrell Road, Lynn, Mass., for a special permit requesting to operate a tattoo establishment at 2 First Avenue, Unit 101, Peabody, Mass., filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with the only condition that the applicant get in touch with the health department for a site visit, and that all tattoo artists also, excuse me, I actually have this in writing. I'll read it more directly. Per the Health Department, establishment will require a permit from the Board of Health, as well as the body artist to be employed at the location. And that would be the only condition.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. You heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach. O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10 to 0.
You're all set. Thank you.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
We're going to move on to item 4B, special permit, the Kitty Cafe and Adoption Lounge, Inc. And the clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, May 12th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from the Kitty Cat Cafe and Adoption Lounge, Inc., 152 State Street, Newburyport, Mass., for a special permit requesting to operate a kennel in a BR1 zoning district at 108 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage, or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
The applicant, please step forward and give us a summary of what you're trying to do, with the name and address for the record.
Thank you, members of the City Council. My name is John Kelty, and I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm appearing on behalf of the Kitty Cat Cafe and Adoption Lounge, Inc., which is a mouthful, and which is hoping to operate at 108 Newbury Street. This would be, we are seeking a special permit in order to operate a kennel on the site. However, in most instances, this particular facility, which will be described by my client, Yuri Harrell, is anything but a kennel. It's an interesting, brand new concept, which has been realized in several states. Here in New England, I think there are only 3 other kitty cat cafe and adoption centers. And my client has developed a business plan in which I filed a portion of it with the application for special permit, so that you would understand exactly what it is that my client conducts as a business. Mr. Harrell is an educator. He and his wife are both educators, and they are the officers of the Kitty Cat Cafe Adoption Center, Inc. And I would like to introduce Mr. Harrell to the City Council so that he could describe in greater detail exactly what his business does. Would you come up, Yuri? And correct anything I've stated that's wrong.
Just need your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Ori Harrell, 152 State Street, Unit 6, Newburyport, 01950. It's all the Kitty Cat Cafe and saying the zip code. It's all together. I thank you for your time and for meeting and for considering our permit today. We've received such an amazing reception here in Peabody. It's been amazing. It's been from the health department, from other local businesses, from the Chamber of Commerce, from some counselors already, even dog people. It's been a really great reception. As Attorney Kelty said, my wife and I have been in education for 25 years each. I'm a former principal in Saugus and am now administrator in Somerville. My wife is a high school English teacher. And the two of us have traveled to 22 cat cafes in the country. There's about 100 and only about 3 or 4 in New England. And in all these travels, we've been really moved by the number of animals that are rescued through these places, because it's a lot more of an open air environment where people can interact. And it really leads to a lot of bonding, and especially in the last few years, it's been hard on all of us. I think many of us have found how important the animal-human bond is, and we decided this is time. We're going to do it right now. So the Kitty Cat Cafe is a 501c3 nonprofit. We've had it approved already by the IRS. When you enter it, there is no kitchen, there's no food prep. So that cafe part, it's not your traditional cafe. When you enter, you can buy prepackaged bakery treats, you can get bottled drinks, and you, of course, sanitize, you learn some of the rules, and you could bring in your own drinks from the outside, and you go into the cat area where you could spend 50 minutes with our adoptable cats. You could hang out with them. A lot of people can't have an animal in their home because of allergies or because of a landlord that doesn't allow it in their apartments. And some people actually end up adopting the cats from the cafe. The cats come to us from Mississippi, where there is a lot of overpopulation. There's not enough homes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of euthanization as well. And the cats come through 3 levels of scrutiny. The first, they get sort of vetted. Can they be in a cat cafe? Can they make it through the transport? Are they healthy? Do they have all their shots? Do they have any respiratory illnesses, ringworm, all that stuff? And then from there, they get cleared to come to an isolation facility in Massachusetts, then checked out again, then brought to a rescue here in Amesbury, and then finally to us. Safety and cleanliness is our #1 priority, and it's been really great working with the health department. Their regulations, I know I sound a little worried when I say it, but their regulations are really great, and the state regulations are really rigorous. And as a teacher, I want to get the A+ with extra stickers for this one. So we're going to have a separate litter box room. We're going to have a quarantine room with a special HVAC system for when there are ill cats. Hopefully there aren't. We're going to do a lot of sanitization and hand washing station, impervious walls, twice a day cleaning and full disinfecting of the premises, because we want people to feel safe, and we want you to feel like you can trust what we're doing here. Over time, we want to have free events weekly for seniors, because I think that bond's really important, for students with disabilities from organizations in the area. And we've already started talking to some schools around here to host internships for students who are in animal care and business social media programs. And lastly, I want to leave you with that we really want to be part of Peabody. We want to invest in Peabody. We want to be part of the community in Peabody. We really want to only work with local businesses and give back to the Chamber of Commerce. And for the risk and chance you're taking on us and the welcome you give us, we want to give it to you in return with a really anchoring community experience for everyone. Thank you.
With that, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have. This is the 108 Newbury. If you're unfamiliar, is the strip mall in which there's a freestanding portion of it that is occupied Big Pig Barbecue, and then formerly Hertz, and several car-related portions, and where my client is taking one of the spaces in that facility. That's the facility owned by Bob Raffina. We're happy to answer questions that you may have.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on this, still no one on the Zoom? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. Under suspension of the rules, I'd like to receive late communications 1 and 6.
You heard the motions from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed to vote? Councilor Gamache.
Yes, I met with the petitioner Yuri last week. He gave me the, everything that he had given to the council tonight. The concept is unique, and I've received a lot of positive feedback from the residences, not just in Ward 5, but throughout the city, that are really looking forward to being a part of this. By being inclusive with the chamber and ARC and the senior center and the senior citizens, I think that this is a great addition to the city, and I hope that the rest of the city councilors could back this petition this evening. Thank you. I'm sorry, could I also receive 8F under suspension of the rules?
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed to vote?
Thank you.
You're all set. Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Any other councilors? Any other councilors? Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was fortunate enough to have a phone discussion with Ori, and I like your energy, I like your enthusiasm, and we look forward to having you here in Peabody. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors?
Motion to close the public hearing?
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed to vote?
I just have one question for the petitioner, if I may. The hours of operation you have listed Wednesday through Saturday, 9 to 4:30. And the reason why I bring this up, if there is any, if this really takes off and you wanted to utilize other days or expanded hours, is that something that you would be interested in doing? Because if we give you these hours of operation and days of operation, you're going to have to come back to us. And I'd feel more comfortable giving you the ability to expand the hours and not use them in the days so that you don't have to come back here before us. Would you be inclined to you don't have to use them. I mean, you don't have to. You can go 9 to 7 if you want, but you can open anytime you want, and you can use, you can use Monday through Saturday, so that you have the ability to open without having to come before us. Because this isn't a fun thing to do.
So thank you for that offer, Councilor. We would like to do Monday through Saturday, 8 to 8 o'clock in the evening, and we'll see if we can get that far along such that we would be able to use them. Thank you.
And thank you. If the motion is in order, I move to approve the Kitty Cat Cafe and Adoption Lounge, 152 Incorporated, 152 State Street, Peabody, Mass. I'm sorry, Newburyport, Mass. For special permit requesting to operate kennel in a BR1 zoning district at 108 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass. Is filed in accordance with sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. With the hours, first condition that the hours of operation be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion? Councilor Rosenau.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the petitioner, what happens after hours as far as upkeep with the cats, food, water?
Thank you for that question.
Close
That
the
is
public
a
hearing.
That is a great question. We've really worked with the health department and talking about it with the animal control officer. What we do and what our mentor cat cafes do is they have a comprehensive security camera system during that time. We also really watch during the day for any cats that might not be able to handle the overnight, and then we have backup foster homes that we remove them to so they can get adopted from there. And we leave the premises at the end of every day, making sure there's full food, full water with fountains to circulate fresh water, and we do a full cleaning of the litter boxes beforehand.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much, councilors.
All right, moving on to item 4C, special permit for Extreme Packing Solutions, Inc., 7 Webster Street. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, February 10th, 2022, which has been continued to May 12th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Extreme Packing Solutions, Inc., care of Keith Tobin, President, 59 Sturtevant Street, Beverly, Mass., for a special permit to operate a trucking terminal for the transportation of common dry freight goods which are created, packaged, stored, and transferred at 7 Webster Street, Unit F, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.6, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Thank you. Would the petitioner come forward and give us a name and address for the record and a summary of what you're trying to do?
Yes. For the record, my name is Joseph McDonald, and I'm an attorney. I represent Extreme Packing Solutions Incorporated. The president of Extreme Package Solutions Incorporated, Keith Tobin, is here to answer any questions regarding this common dry freight trucking terminal request at 7 Webster Street. The requested hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. They will not be working on Sundays. They occasionally work on Saturdays. The original application had requested 7 parking spaces. After reviewing the needs of Extreme Packing Solutions Incorporated, the plan that you have in front of you, the most recent plans, would show actually 6 vehicles that would be needed. They have 2 box trucks, and Mr. Tobin can answer questions regarding those. They also have a van. The van is used by an employee. That's why there's not as many employee spaces that are needed. That van is driven off the property and back on the property. Their business is such that they bring in personal property, repackage that. They have short-term storage, and then those pieces of personal property are then shipped out. As you can see from the plan before you, there have been designated plans for Extreme Packing Solutions that are required, including a customer parking space. To be quite frank with you, there will be no customers coming at site. That's not what this business does. They go out and they pick up the property, bring it back there, and repackage it. You can see from the plan that was provided, the box trucks, there are 2 box trucks, and again, Mr. Tobin can answer any questions regarding their size. There are several dock areas with doors. They'll be parking on 7 Webster Street property. They will not be encroaching on Webster Street. They will be on the property. That's why they've been put on that corner where they have the room. And they'll also have the bays and loading dock area to be able to use to both bring in as well as have this equipment shipped out. As to dumpster use, in discussing this with Mr. Tobin as well as other parties, the dumpster that they currently use and they'll continue to use is a rolling dumpster, and that rolling dumpster will be inside the warehouse itself. So I just wanted to clarify those matters on the application. If you have any questions you'd like to hear from Mr. Tobin, he is here to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Do you want to introduce? You can give us your name and address for the record.
Just say your name and...
Hi, I'm Keith Tobin. I'm the president of Extreme Packing Solutions. We primarily, we do crating and specialized packaging. That's primarily what we do. And once it's brought in, we do a lot of international work, so we ship it, and it has to be a certain way. So we do crating and woodwork, so it has to be done, and then we have it shipped. And then we will have carriers coming in, just picking them up, and then they're out of there. They're not hanging around, because that stuff, as soon as it gets out, we don't want to fill our warehouse unless it's just temporary storage, so we want to move it as quickly as possible.
Could you just give us your name and address for the record for the clerk?
I'm sorry?
Your name and address for the record.
Oh, yeah, Keith Tobin, and I'm 59 Sturtevant Street, Beverly, Massachusetts, 01915.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the petitioner? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom? Nobody on Zoom. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? If you just approach and give us your name and address for the record, please, and then your opposition.
Madam Chairman, I think there's some confusion. He's not here in opposition. He is in support.
I'm in support.
Support. Okay. If you want to give, we'll go to the support. If you want to come up, give us your name and address for the record, and then why you're in support.
Yeah, my name's R. William Coletti, 7 Webster Street, owner with my wife. I live in Gloucester, Massachusetts, 8 Norwood Court. There you go. Does that work? Okay. Want me to repeat anything?
Yeah, if you want to just start from there.
Okay, my name is R. William Coletti. I live in 8 Norwood Court in Gloucester, Massachusetts. I own, with my wife, Long Beach Realty Trust, which is 7 Webster Street, which was under discussion tonight. I want to speak very favorably of this tenant, who I believe will be really a big plus addition to the whole neighborhood. I have had some tenant problems in the past. Part of it, I used to be the Quaker State distributor, and I ran that building for 15, 20 years, and we had no problems. We had many trucks in there, and all as big as theirs or bigger, and never had a problem with congestion. When I sold the business, the Quaker State Motor Oil Distributorship, I decided to break up the building. Now, being a novice on commercial realty and rental situations, I grabbed the first person I could get a hold of to rent my spaces. And I've, over the years, have learned, especially recently, because it got out of control, that you know, you have to look into the future and traffic patterns and all that other stuff, which I didn't consider, but I feel like I'm pretty well educated now. The neighborhood, as it stands, had some problems. We had a couple of unusual situations. The car dealership business, and it caught up on us. I wasn't even aware of it for quite a while with my 2 tenants. The 2 tenants that caused some problems in our neighborhood. They're small guys. One was a mechanical place, and one was a auto detailing. And the car dealerships now, because they couldn't get new cars, are taking their trade-ins that they used to farm out and reconditioning them. And they went to our small mechanic guy, and they solicited his business to refurbish the cars and then go to the next door neighbor, which was my tenant, Best Auto Detailing, and get them to clean them up and then put them back on the lot for resale. So we had an awful lot of influx of unregistered cars, some complaints in the neighborhood about that. I tried to solve it. Both tenants were not up front. They were saying it was this guy or that guy. They weren't telling me the whole story, and I will admit I believed it. It was the easy way for me to go. But in the meantime, it got out of hand, and we have since evicted those 2. Well, we sent them notices. One is gone, one is on his way out. But on the other hand, he's he also got rid of his partner. He's only a single guy. He wants to stay, and but he's not working under. We're trying to get him out anyway, because we'd like to take the spaces to be more sensitive to the community and make them commercial or construction units. I'm sorry for anything that on our end that caused the problem. I don't think it is all us, however. There have been some letters sent out that have misinformation in them, and I don't want to get into that because you're time sensitive. I get it. We can get out of here if everything goes okay. But I'm open to any questions that anybody has about what happened in the past or what is going to happen in the future. I do know that this tenant is, in dealing with them, they've been so patient. They've been trying to just get in this place for at least 6 months, and it's been costly for everybody. And that's all I can tell you. We run a really good shop. That's all I can say. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Well, we'll get to that if anybody does. We're still in the procedural phase of asking people.
So can I go?
I wouldn't leave, but you can have a seat.
Well, I'm leaving. No, I'm going over there.
All right.
All right.
Is there anybody else, just to make sure, is there anybody else in the audience or on Zoom that wishes to speak in favor? We have a couple people that have joined on Zoom. If they wish to speak in favor, if they would raise their hands. We have Tom Alexander. You wish to speak in favor? Can you hear us? Tom Alexander, can you unmute your microphone?
Yes,
All right.
will.
You wish to speak in favor?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Tom Alexander. I'm a lawyer with offices at 1 School Street in Beverly, Massachusetts. I am here on behalf of the owner of the property who just spoke to you, Bill Coletti. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background, and I will be brief. As you know, you're probably aware, the Colettis purchased this property, and they're the landlord, and they've had it since 1997, which is 25 years. And they ran their oil distribution business out of that building for about 10 years, and since then have rented it out to numerous tenants. Over that time, things have gone well, but over the last year, 2 to 2 years, there were some problem tenants which have been dealt with. There have been some evictions, and the tenant mix has improved, and the situation there has improved in terms of parking, et cetera. But I would point out to you that this is a downtown industrial location that has, as you know, been there for decades preceding the institution of zoning in Peabody. And so that as of with all downtown older industrial areas, the situation doesn't comply with present zoning. And it's not expected to, because both in the Peabody zoning ordinance and in the Mass General laws, there's ample provision made for grandfathering non-conforming situations, which certainly this is. So the parking is not perfect, but it has worked for many decades, and it continues to work. The proposed use here is for the special permit is really an excellent one for this location. It would occupy 7,000 square feet, which is a big chunk of this, with a fairly non-intense use with the packaging and storage that would be involved. And there would only be 4 employees. So there's not going to be a lot of need for parking. And this is probably much less intense than many of the 26 uses that are allowed by right. and I won't go through all of them, but some of them are quite intense, such as these are by right, no need for special permit, so no need to come before the city council. These uses include auto sales, auto service station, wholesale bakery, food processing, machine shops, painting shops, welding shops, including, and also manufacturing of many types. I know that you will hear from a neighbor of this property who has, we are in litigation with at this time. But I do want to remind you that this hearing is not about any dispute we may have with a neighbor. It's about the use that is proposed. And again, this is a very good use, a very non-intense use, and I would hope that you would find a way to allow it. Thank you. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any other members on Zoom or in the audience wish to speak in favor? Nobody else wants to speak in favor on Zoom. Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Just state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. I'm here representing Paul Ferragamo as trustee of Webster Street Building Realty Nominee Trust, the direct and immediate abutter to the 7 Webster Street property, and to that portion of it subject to the application before you. Pardon me. We are in opposition to this application and respectfully request that it be denied for the reasons set forth in my letter to the council to you dated May 6, 2022. And in short, the parking plan presented by the property owner to the council and upon which this application is based is not practical, nor is it workable because it overstates the amount of parking available to service the entire property, including that proposed for the applicant. I don't want to go back into history. I think it's pretty well laid out in my letter. But the property owner had plenty of parking prior to constructing buildings on his property. He chose to consume all of that available space, and now is an absentee landlord profiting from those decisions. He wants you to accept an unworkable parking plan based on parking in active areas and expecting the abutters and municipal enforcement to bear the burden of this mess he and his tenants in the past have created, which will continue if you approve this special permit. The problem here is very simple. It's simple math. The property owner, according to his own parking plan, proposes 27 parking spaces. He, and through him, the applicant, does not have enough room for the 6 or 7 spaces proposed after deducting from the 27, the 8 to 10 spaces proposed in the parking plan in front of the 6 garage bays, and those are very clearly marked out on the parking plan before you from late March. And in my letter, I provided to you an easement that benefits Mr. Ferragamo and the predecessors in interest to that property, pursuant to which Mr. Ferragamo is entitled to 12 parking spaces on the 7 Webster Street property. So the math problem, when you deduct the 8 to 10 spaces in front of parking bays, and you deduct the 12 spaces to which Mr. Ferragamo is entitled, you leave a net 5 to 7 parking spaces available for the entire building to be shared with the applicant by the other tenants there. Adding another use to an already congested and overburdened property where there is not enough parking now will not clean up the area, nor will it make things better but make them worse for the immediately adjacent neighborhood and Mr. Ferragamo, adding to that sense of Wild West that still exists today. We know this because the recent history involving lawsuits ongoing, as recently pointed out by Attorney Alexander, enforcement actions, over $20,000 in parking enforcement expenses paid by Mr. Ferragamo to clean up and mitigate these messes caused at the hands of this property tells us this. That history being detailed in my May 6th letter to you. So in summary of our opposition, as I indicated, there is not enough parking available at the special permit property to accommodate the proposed additional use. As mentioned, 27 spaces proposed, less the 8 to 10 spaces in front of garage bays, less the 12 Ferragamo easement spaces, leave a net 5 to 7 spaces for the entire 7 Webster Street property. We pointed out the discrepancy between the application and the plan. Application asks for 7 spaces and a dumpster. The plan depicts accommodation for 6 spaces. For the applicant and no dumpster, that was explained. There doesn't appear to be enough room to accommodate the applicant's expected use. The parking spaces allocable to the special permit use shown on the plan are not large enough to accommodate the 2 trucks and 1 van described in the application. And there's been some confusion in the property owner's presentation here, because the fact of the matter is one of the tenants is still there. One of the, that he's identified as the troubled tenant, is still there after being served a notice to quit back in mid-March. 2 months later, he's still there. So the tenant there to this day has been observed occupying many of those spaces in front of the Webster Street property that should be allocated to the applicant, causing auto repairs in the middle of Webster Street and creating a lot of this sense of Wild West and havoc that has historically been the nature of the operation there, and as I said, continues today. The conclusion here is that among the purposes of the zoning ordinance are to lessen congestion in the streets, to prevent overcrowding of land, to protect the integrity of neighborhoods, and to encourage the most appropriate use of land. And your current charge here is to make certain findings that under the current circumstances we believe you cannot make. That being that no special permit shall be granted unless it is in the judgment of the City Council that the use for which the permit is sought will satisfy a desirable local need, that its design and appearance will not be injurious to the established or future character of the vicinity and the neighborhood, and that it shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this ordinance. This application fails on the last 2 findings and must be denied as a matter of law. With regard to pre-existing non-conforming that Attorney Alexander raised, I really don't understand that argument. And if he's pushing pre-existing non-conforming, then he ought to be before this council for another special permit, because there's clearly a change in modification to the pre-existing non-conforming use. Parking is generally unaffected by this. As parking needs change, as tenants evolve, your by right uses and special permit uses still need to comply with the zoning ordinance requirements for parking. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I appreciate your accommodation in hearing me tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on the Zoom wish to speak in opposition, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive late 9.
Heard the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? Is a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8H.
Heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Is a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have had, over the past several months, the opportunity to speak with the applicant, the landlord, and the abutter's attorney. We've had several conversations over the course of the last few months. I do believe that this Extreme Packing Solutions is a great candidate and a great business to bring to the city of Peabody. They operate a very niche use. I didn't even know there was special packaging you could do, but it's a great need, and I believe they're the only, or if not one of very few in the New England area that operates this way. They currently operate out of the city of Beverly, and from what I hear from counselors and residents in Beverly, they're great neighbors there and have no issues. So I've had several conversations. I've talked to residents who abut this area. There's been a lot of issues in this area, not just on this property, but when you have an industrial park in a residential area, there are issues. No one wants to wake up to trucks in the middle of the night. It's complicated, and as the ward counselor, it's a balancing act between operating with what we have in the city and what's been existing for 100 years and operating and appeasing residents. So speaking with residents, they're also in favor of this use. I think in my stance that I've taken tonight that what's before us is the special permit, is the use for this company. I do believe that they are providing a service to our community that is not provided by anyone else. I think we need to do something. We need to improve this area, and if we don't approve this permit, what happens? Where do we begin to improve this area that we all refer to as the Wild West? I have spoken with our building department, and there have been from the time they were asked for response on this application, I was told there have been no additional complaints or issues with the property. So speaking with Mr. Clutty and his attorney, there has been a tenant recently evicted. On Lake Communication 9, you can see a chart that shows the businesses that are currently there, businesses that are in the process of leaving, and the businesses that this applicant would replace. The number of employees from the businesses that this applicant would be replacing is significantly higher, more than double the number of employees we expect to be on site. This is not a customer-facing business. I think that's a big issue that we have at the property right now. It's a small street, it's a private way. There's obviously legal litigation, which I don't believe is the purview of this council. So with that said, I'll turn it to my fellow councilors, but I will be supporting the special permit. Oh, yes, thank you. I do have some conditions I would impose within the special permit. I would, based on some conversations with our building department and the obvious concerns for the parking situation on site, I would require that the spots for this applicant are designated by sign and are visible. I believe that some issues we've had in the past can be mitigated by having some sort of parking plan in place. I do believe these applicants, if approved, they run a very good business, and if they were to run into any issues, they would be knocking on the door of their landlord to make sure that the other tenants are following the rules as well. And I do make it very clear that if we do have any issues or complaints, we will, bring this back to the council for a show cause.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is interesting. This is the phrase "Wild, Wild West" has been used a number of times. It reminds me of what Pulaski Street used to be called, the Wild, Wild West. Months ago, when this first came before us, I was dead against it because all you'd have to do back then was take a ride off Upton Street, and there were cars and trucks and details and automotive repairs, and everything was going on in that parking lot. There were barbecues, there were people eating lunch, there were taco trucks, it was totally out of control. And I give Councilor Peach and Mr. Tellerico, the building department, credit. They made it clear to the applicant and his landlord that they weren't going to put up with any bull. They were destined to make this a workable area, and I give credit to, as again, Councilor Peach for doing that. Attorney Panos made some legitimate points, but I think those points are in the past. I give Mr. Coletti credit. He did a mea culpa up here. He was the first to admit right out of the chute that he hasn't handled things correctly, and that he has done his diligent homework, and he's working to create a good business environment. And like Councilor Peach said, if we have to, we do a show cause hearing and bring him back. But I think that the hard work that went into fixing this application is the right thing for that area. Mr. Tobin runs a top-notch moving business, and I really believe that they've turned the corner and they're working hard against it. I'd like to ask Mr. Tobin a couple questions, if I could, please, Mr. President.
Will the applicant come up to the microphone and just turn it on? Just push the button once. There you go.
When you talk about shipping, you talk about personal items. What are you
Well,
shipping?
it's basically, we ship everything. We ship IT, machinery, equipment, stuff like that. So we package it and it gets resurplus. It's like surplus. So we package it and it has to be done a certain way and it has to be done perfect so that it gets shipped out. So when they do that, it could be a trailer load of stuff. They come pick it up and they're gone. They're not hanging around. It's not like it's a day-to-day thing. So typically what happens is it could be on a Thursday or, maybe twice a week that they come and pick, because we have to prep it and have it ready. And we do custom crating for international shipments and antiques and things like that may be shipped, internationally. So
They come and pick up the freight.
Oh, no, just logistics companies. They are set up. One of the major accounts that we have is out of Arizona, so they set up the shippers. So they come and pick it up. Once we say everything is ready, they come pick it up and they leave. That's it. We load them and send them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tobin. Again, I'd like to give Mr. Coletti credit. It's a hard thing to do, to admit that you created a bad environment, but I think he's done his homework and he's turned it into a positive. So I'm supporting this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Manning Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much like Councilor Gould has referenced, the phrase Wild Wild West certainly has been used in the past. And what was the Wild Wild West years ago was 58 Pulaski Street. And this is how you improve areas, by bringing in good businesses and holding people accountable and working with the neighbors and the ward councilor in order to do that. So I believe that this business will help improve the area. It's providing a desirable local need with unique packaging. And there are conditions put on to the permit by the councilor, and they clearly are going to be held accountable. So again, this is how we make improvements. If we have an area that is a problem, we get together and we try and find a good business to come in that can improve the area, much like we did on Pulaski Street and other areas in the city. If you find a good business that is a good fit and you hold them accountable, that's how things work, and improvements all around. So a rising tide raises all ships. So this sounds like a good fit to me, and I will be supporting the permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Councilor McGinn, and then Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would agree with Councilor Peach that the use on the scale that's proposed here makes sense for that location. The size of the trucks and the volume of the truck trips shouldn't represent a problem for the area. The only concern I do have is just that, that we are talking about a special permit for that particular use, which could, in broad terms, have a big impact if it was a different type of truck terminal. So I'm not sure, Councilor Peach, if this is something that you may have already considered in your conditions, but when the council has had these types of concerns in the past, you know, to transfer a special permit, it doesn't necessarily require, it does not require a hearing, a public hearing, but unless we make that a condition. So the suggestion I would make is that the motion include a condition that a transfer wouldn't be allowed without a public hearing. Mr. President, through you to Councilor Peach, is that something that you see as workable?
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want to see this transferred to a larger, quote-unquote, trucking company. I think this is a unique business that works in a residential area.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Turco, and then Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to express my support, and I, too, was reluctant, like Councilor Gould at the beginning, but also intrigued by Extreme Packing Solutions. Maybe it's my age, but I was really intrigued. I couldn't wait for this hearing to take place. The specialty packaging enthralls me. So I do understand Attorney Panos's concerns here, but I think that Mr. Coletti has shown, I mean, in the late 90s, he has, in the past, evicted tenants in October 2021, 2 different tenants. And through speaking to the building commissioner, that tire man was a major issue. And Mr. Coletti had addressed that. May have taken him a little longer than it should have, but he did address it. He has evicted one. He has the notice to quit. This is the question that I have. The notice to quit on Fode's garage. Mr. Coletti, can you just answer a question for me, if you don't mind?
Just approach the podium. Council's going to have a question for you. He just has a question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Coletti. My question is in regards to the notice to quit that you served on March 18th to Fode's garage,
Yes.
which ultimately seems to be more of an issue than the auto detail place that has already left. Why has Fode's garage not left the site yet? Because if I recall, commercial evictions are only 30-day requirements, and you could have him off the property by now, correct?
I'm not sure that, I don't think it's, I don't know, maybe ignorance on my part, but evicting somebody is difficult in this, I think. Maybe I'm thinking of it as a personal situation versus commercial.
Mr.
but
Coletti, I'm sorry to interrupt, but his attorney actually has just asked that he can answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Coletti. If you don't mind,
okay.
I'll deferring to your attorney, I'll ask that question to him.
Yeah, and I can't add anything to what I had said before.
Well, your attorney just wants to answer the question for Councilor
Yes.
Turco.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor, for the opportunity to address this. So the tenants here pay their rent on the 10th of each month. So we're required to give them notice prior to the 10th of 1 month for the following month. So in other words, we gave notice that and they had to be out of here by May 10th. And so we haven't had an opportunity to go further with the eviction process. He has, it's my understanding, reduced his the activity on site. He's gotten rid of a couple of employees, but we will be pursuing that eviction as we go forward.
Thank you, and that's one of the reasons I asked the question, sir, is You mentioned that he released some employees and he's down to one employee there. So it's almost as if you're stating that he's going to stay, and it's confusing to me. Are you evicting him? Are you going to follow through with the eviction regardless, or are you eventually going to allow this gentleman to stay where he has eliminated some employees and terminated the car dealership customers that he once had? For you to mention that indicates to me that you intend on keeping this gentleman. And my fear, although I have extreme trust in Councilor Peach that you will address this, is that as soon as this permit's issued, that this eviction will be lifted from Fode's garage, and things could potentially go back to the way they were. So do you intend on following through with this eviction?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I fully support it, and I do have utter confidence in Councilor Peach. And I'm hopeful for this area, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. My first question was already asked and answered by Councilor McGinn. My second question is, as far as the trucks that will be picking up the merchandise for delivery, what is the biggest size truck that will be coming to that area for pickup?
Mr. Tobin.
I'm sorry. There'll be trailers coming in, but they're not staying. It's like they hit the dock, we load them, they go. They might have one pallet, they could have 10, and then we send it.
So the largest truck would be an 18-wheeler?
It would probably be an 18-wheeler, but it's not like the big trailers. They come in with the little smaller trucks that come in, the front part, so they're not large. Just the small tractors, they're day cabs. They're not coming in with overnight, trailers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Any other councilors? Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to commend Councilor Peach for coordinating and working through this situation that's been going on for months. And I have heard that the site has improved. I do think there is a local need for this purpose. And I appreciate the conditions that my fellow councilors have suggested. I think that makes this an even stronger application. So I will support it. I do think bringing in reputable businesses, like Councilor Manning said, will help improve in the area and attract others. So I will support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Any other councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Move to close the public hearing.
Heard the motion from Councilor Peach to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move to approve the special permit for Extreme Packing Solutions to operate a trucking terminal for the transportation of common dry freight goods, which are crated, packaged, stored, and transferred at 7 Webster Street, Unit F, Peabody, Mass. As filed in accordance with sections 4.2.6, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with condition that they will properly sign the parking spots that have been allocated to them. Their hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 7 to 5 p.m. Per request of the Health Department, we'll add the applicant must ensure that trash pickup is done in accordance with city ordinance regarding allowable hours of pickup. And as stated by the applicant, the rolling dumpster will be stored inside the warehouse. And I would like to add on final condition that transfer of this special permit is not allowed without a public hearing. So.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Peach. There was a piece on the Health Department input about a question of whether food is. Did you leave that off because there is not going to be any food packaged?
Correct. I left that off, understanding that there's no food transported.
Thank you
by the
for the
business.
clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Congratulations, good luck. All right, moving on. Item 5, reports of committee. Industrial and Community Development Committee met today. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under discussion today in our subcommittee, we met tonight. I'm sorry, I should have started it formally. We met tonight. The Industrial Community Development Subcommittee. In attendance was Councilor Rossignol, Councilor Manning Martin, Councilor O'Neill sat in for Councilor Daigle, Councilor McGinn, and myself. Also here was Councilor Turco and Councilor Peach. We discussed the new boundaries needed of the Mill Overlay District for revamping the zoning map, and there was a motion by Councilor McGinn to refer to the Planning Board and set up a public hearing, and there was also a request to get an opinion from the Police Department. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am an employee at Mills 5858 Pulaski Street, which involves this matter. So for the record, I'm going to recuse myself and step out of the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. You heard the motion on the floor from Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through to Councilor Gould. Just, if you wouldn't mind adding, just for, to make the motion a little bit more specific, that the zoning map would be expanded to include property ID 053-087.
All right, so you've amended the motion from Councilor Gould, part of his report of committee. Any other discussions? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache. Turco.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Councilor Gould.
Further discussions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. So moving on, we have the Finance Committee. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee of the City Council met earlier this evening. Present for the committee was Councilors Gamache, Gould, Manning Martin, Turco, and myself as chair. Also present were Councilors Peach, Daigle, O'Neill, Melville, and Rossignol. There were 4 items on the agenda. The first item was a motion, Council Motion P-190-22 from Councilor Rossignol, moved to refer to the Finance Committee a recommendation of a 3% raise for the school committee. First order of business was to accept a late communication, late 8. So I'd make that motion to the full council, Mr. President. So moved.
This is just to receive late 8, correct?
Correct.
All right. You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn to receive late communication 8. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. So several councilors voted, actually, I should say, voiced their support for a raise for the school committee for various reasons. But central theme of it was that this would only be the 3rd raise in 24 years. And the need to be reasonable in that regard, and also to make sure that there is some level of acknowledgement of the importance of the position, and to attract potential candidates in the future. With that, there was a motion by Councilor Turco as follows. Moved to amend Section 18-18 and 18-20 of the City Code of the City of Peabody, thereby establishing the rate of compensation for members of the school committee. Be it ordained that by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows. Section 1, that the Code of the City of Peabody adopted on January 9th, 1986 and amended is hereby further amended as follows by deleting the following. B, by inserting within Section 18-20 20A entitled Schedule of Compensation for Part-Time Positions, the position title and rate of compensation, member of school committee, $4,000 yearly, and inserting in place thereof the following. B, by inserting within Section 18-20A entitled a Schedule of Compensation for Part-Time Positions for the position title and rate compensation, member of school committee, $6,000. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. And the motion is to advertise. So moved.
Heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould, Rossignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next item on the agenda was to establish an ordinance creating the departmental revolving fund for the Peabody Children's Museum. This was presented to the committee by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras, and this is needed to administratively support the new department in terms of how the finances of the Children's Museum will be handled, consistent with some of the other revolving funds that exist in the Peabody already, for example, Tilly's Farm. There was a motion by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to advertise an ordinance amending Article 3, Departments, Division 8, Children's Museum Department, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows. Section 2-89, Establishment of Peabody Children's Museum Revolving Fund in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half of the Massachusetts General Law. 1, expenditures from the fund can be made for any allowable expense as set forth in Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half for the Peabody Children's Museum. 2, revenues and receipts generated through the Peabody Children's Museum activities shall be credited to the Peabody Children's Museum Revolving Fund. 3, the Peabody Children's Museum Executive Director is authorized to expend from the fund. And 4, expenditures from the fund is limited to the available balance in the revolving fund. The revolving fund balance at the end of the fiscal year shall be retained by the fund. Mr. President, that motion passed the committee unanimously, and I now bring it for consideration of the full council. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould, Rossignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next item on the agenda was a transfer of fund for police salaries full-time in an amount of $210,000. This was presented to us by the Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras, who explained that this is a result of the city ratifying a one-year collective bargaining agreement with the Peabody Police Benevolent Association, MCOP Local 351, and the Peabody Police Captains Association, MCOP Local 346, for fiscal year 2022, and that the agreement provides for a 2% salary increase and an increase for police details for the city of Peabody from $44 to $50 per hour. There was a couple of questions from the committee, one by Councilor Turco with respect to whether or not it covered all unions. I believe the answer to that was that it did, and that was a motion made by Councilor Gould as follows. Move to approve transfer of salary from salary reserve account number 100-01320-51925, in an amount of $210,000 to police salaries full-time, account number 10021005110, in this amount of $210,000. Mr. President, that motion passed the committee unanimously. I now bring it to the attention of the full council. So moved.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilman McGinn. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last item on the agenda was a transfer of funds, CPC, Lake and Pond Retention, an amount of $40,900. This was presented to us by Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras, and it is relates to a add-on to a previous project for the harvesting of aquatic plants from Elginwood and Mill Ponds. There was a motion made by Councilor Gould as follows: move to approve transfer from account number 270-000-33021, CPC Open Space, in an amount of $40,090 to account number 270-1811-58562, 2022-000392, CPC Lake and Pond Restoration, in an amount of $40,900. Mr. President, that motion passed the committee unanimously. I now bring it for consideration of the full council. So moved.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. You heard the motion from Councilman McGinn. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. That completes the report.
Thank you very much, Councilman McGinn. Moving on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould.
No motions, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the suspension of the rules, motion to receive and approve all papers being in order. Banner request for St. Clara's of Assisi's Catholic Community. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Rozignol. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed to the vote? Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to approve renewal of 2022 Building Association of the AOH Division 258 Lowell Street. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rozignol.
No further motions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rozignol. Councilman Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding all the communications that we recently had this past week on our subsidized housing inventory and our safe harbor status, I just wanted to make sure that the ZBA got all that information, because I noticed in the emails that we did receive, some ZBA members were CC'd on some of the communications, not others, and the communications went to different people. So I just want to make sure, since the ZBA has a meeting on Monday with 240B projects, I want to make sure that they have the most accurate, the most up-to-date information that we have. So there was, and these communications, late 2, 3, 4, and 5, weren't really late, just to explain for them. Our clerk was on vacation. Her stand-in, Tim Spanos, was not CC'd on these. That's why they weren't included in our packet. So, I'd like to make a motion to receive under suspension of the rules late communication, late 2, late 3, late 4, and late 5, and request that the clerk send them to the ZBA forthwith. I know we don't need to do an emergency preamble with you, but their meeting is Monday, so this information is helpful and needed by them so that they're informed of our current status, that we are at 10.41%, and we do have safe harbor status. So to move for these late communications to be sent to the entire ZBA board from the clerk. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote? Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you. And lastly, along those same lines, we did get another email on this subject from the mayor with more clarification on the standing of SHI and Safe Harbor that we received on Tuesday that Allison Danforth was not CC'd on. So I'm going to send this to you now, Ms. Danforth, and ask that you include this to go to the entire ZBA as well. So moved.
Well, yeah, the clerk, we'll call that late 11.
Late 11.
There we go. So all move to receive late communication 11. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you very much. No more motions.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8A and refer to the Legal Affairs Committee and Community Development.
Hear the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8B and set up a special permit hearing.
Hear the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8D and refer to the Committee of the Whole for our charter discussion.
Hear the motion from Councilor Peach. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a co-motion with Councilor Gould to have Captain Richards and the Traffic Division investigate a need for a handicap sign at 21 Elm Street. So moved.
Hear the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. No more motions, but a few announcements for Ward 3 residents. The ZBA will be meeting on Monday at 7. One of the 40B applications will be for 58 Pulaski Street for 51 units. I've been told there will not be time for public comment at this meeting, so if you can write your comments into the clerk for the ZBA, there will be an additional meeting, and that meeting date will be set on Monday. But you can tune in and watch the meeting and also go back and watch it. It will be posted on YouTube. And I also wanted to let everyone know, remind everyone that this Saturday is the Stamp Out Hunger food drive. So put your non-perishables in a bag by your mailbox before your mailman comes by. And the donations made in the Peabody area will go to our own citizens in Haven from Hunger. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C and refer to legal subcommittee. So moved.
Heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
And thank you, Mr. President. And I know that we certainly got a number of late communications this week, and I know most councilors are, have a general concern about receiving that many, but I just wanted to let me know that we do have one that is before us. It's late communication number 10, and it's rather time sensitive regarding trying to address due to the impending or upcoming building renovations at the Welch School this summer. The city's going to have to evaluate alternate polling places for Ward 2 residents for the election in September and in November. So with that, I do want to move on to the suspension of rules to accept late communication number 10 and refer it to the Legal Affairs Committee. So moved.
Hear the motion from Councilor O'Neill. Councilor Turco.
Thank you. I'm going to apologize in advance to the clerk and Councilor McGinn. I'm sorry that this is late like this, but I didn't realize that this was the proposed location. I don't see how we can put the voting location for Ward 2 Precinct 3, which is on County Street, at this location. You'd be asking people to drive, a mile and a half for the heaviest voting precinct in Ward 2. Where they were at the Seoul School. They moved from the Seoul School to the Welch, and I understand they can't stay at the Welch, but I was really hopeful that we could find somewhere else, and I don't doubt that you did your due diligence, Madam Clerk, and looked as best you can, but I just couldn't support this location, and I understand I don't have a solution for you, but I think this is terrible. It's quite a distance to force people. You're going to lose half the vote count in Ward 2 Precinct 3 that will not drive down to the Holy Ghost. So I can't support this.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I did attend the registrar's meeting earlier this evening. I do have some significant concerns consistent with what was stated by Councilor Turco. You know, having attended the meeting, however, I know that they did look at some alternative locations, and so this, you know, was the will of that committee to put forth this recommendation, but we do have an opportunity to vet this further at Legal Affairs, so I'm going to reserve final judgment till that point in time, but as you rightfully suggested, Councilor Turco, they have you know, done quite a bit of work on this, so it's not without its drawbacks, but it is for 1 year, so this would be a temporary measure, but I guess I'll reserve any further comment on this until we take it up in detail, Legal Affairs. Thank you, Mr. President.
And just the motion on the floor is to receive this late communication and forward it to legal right now, just so people are clear on the public as well. Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. That was my question to you. Maybe I misheard. I thought it was to receive and approve tonight, so I'm glad that it's going to be moved to, my apologies. I will support this being moved to Legal Affairs for discussion, and hopefully we can have some more information by then. Thank you.
Yep, so the motion right now is to receive and send it to Legal Affairs. Councilor O'Neill, did you have something else to add?
No, thank you, Mr. President. Just you hit it right on the head, but the reason why I said it was time-sensitive issues that we needed to get it before to Legal Affairs, not that we had to plow this through. So it is to be discussed at Legal Affairs. Thank you.
Yep, it is, but it's time-sensitive and us get it taken care of. It's a 1 year, just for everybody to understand. It's due to it's completely due to the construction at the Welch School and a change in the phases of the Welch School to deal with the cost overruns that they're currently seeing. With getting the materials so that they can fit the budget. Councilor Gould, did you have anything else to add? Because I don't really want to discuss the issue too much further.
I do. No, not discussing the issue, just discussing the logistics of the meeting. Councilor O'Neill, could you please invite a registrar or the Board of Registrars if you haven't already done that or are willing to do that? Just so they have some questions, if we have questions to answer.
Through you, Mr. President. Yeah, I just got this tonight, so certainly we'll have a Board of Registrars there. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion to send this. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the last item is just to tag on to Councilor Peach's comment. The part of the agenda for Monday evening's Zoning Board of Appeals will be the property, the potential application, the Chapter 40B application for 128 Newberry Street. That'll be taking place that evening. And once again, the developer will be doing a presentation. So I just wanted to give that as informative information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7A and refer to finance. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? A vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7B and refer to finance. So moved.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through to Councilor Peach. Did you get 9B? Do you want me to take that? Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 9B and set up a public hearing. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Daigle, I assume this falls in the same category. You could recuse yourself for it. We'll take a roll call so you don't have to vote on it.
Okay, I'll step out as well.
Very good. We're going to take a roll call vote on this one. It's item 9B, move to receive and set up a public hearing.
Councilors Gould. Yes. Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Councilor Gamache.
Yes, just one motion to send a communication to DPS to add 23 Edith Lane sidewalk onto the list. So move.
Say that, yeah, we said Edith Lane?
Edith Lane, yes.
All right. You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote, Councilor Gamache.
No further motions.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8G and refer to the special permit hearing for forward air freight, I believe, scheduled for May 26th.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? The vote, Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually had two separate motions prepared, and this was in regards to an issue that we've brought up several times over the years, and that was with regard to having a city council attorney that represents the council. And it's just become more and more evident to me that I think there's a dire need for that. And I know that it would be two separate requests here, and one would be for the appropriation of the funding, and the second would be for the amendment to Section 2-12.1. Excuse me, Section 2-12. But I just see this is very near and dear to me. I think that we've all had this come up to us or happen to us, and maybe not the new counselors, but I know anybody that's on here has had an issue where I can think back to 2015 where certain business owners, our councilors who are business owners, were told that they could be sued personally for a decision which was erroneous information. And I could go on and on over the 6 years about information that was just conflicting and what maybe wasn't as our best interest as a council to get that information. And I realize that there will be times that we get information that we don't agree with, and that's fine. But I think that there are times when we need to expedite legal opinions. We need legal opinions that are for the benefit of we, the council, as people and as a body, both. And I think this is very important to address it. It's very common amongst councils for this to happen, and whereas we're in the middle of budget. I did look at the 3 assistant city solicitors listed under the budget. One is listed at $39,461, the other one at $62,307, and the other one at $126,430 with additional benefits. Now, those salaries are based on 27 weeks because if everybody remembers, we had an extra pay period last year. So really, essentially what I did was take a median of those and the lower of the 2 assistant city solicitors. And I'd like to make a motion to request that His Honor the Mayor appropriate funding in the amount of $52,000 plus the cost of employee benefits beginning in fiscal year 2023 to fund for a position of attorney of the Peabody City Council. So moved.
For clarity, Councilor, so you're making that motion. We're not going to send this to a subcommittee or anything. You want to make that motion this evening?
No, this motion, I think we could vote on the request for funding tonight, yeah.
Any discussion? Councilor Gould.
Councilor Turco, I think you're spot on, and I think it's long overdue. There's been so many issues, contentious issues that we've had. And I remember the incident where, as a business owner, we could be personally sued, which, it sent shockwaves through us back when it came about. But, all of those things over time needed to be reviewed by someone, and we didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I'm 100% behind your motion. Thank you.
Councilor Manny Martin.
Thank you. I'm in agreement with this as well. Same with Tom, not to rehash some of the really bad incidences we've had in the past, but just on a more simple issue is when we need information, we need a legal opinion, we have to wait for our next council meeting, so we might have to wait 2 weeks to make a motion to request it of the city solicitor, which we may or may not get a response. I have 2 pending requests. One was an emergency preamble because it was time sensitive to send some information to the Concom that we never got a response. So this council sends out requests for information from the city solicitor. The city solicitor does not work for us. The city solicitor does not answer to us. And a lot of times the city solicitor will ignore us. And that's not just this current city solicitor, it's just That's just the way it is. We need somebody that we can pick up the phone and ask a simple question of an attorney that represents us as we're trying to do our best to represent our constituents, to stay out of lawsuits and just, be informed of what our responsibilities and duties are in a legal matter. And it could be a 15-minute conversation we have with an attorney, but one has to be available to us that answers and reports to us help our constituents. So I'm 100% in agreement with you, Councilor Turco, and Councilor Gould hit it right on the head. It's way overdue, and I commend you for taking that action. Thank you.
Councilor Gamache, then Councilor Peach.
Yeah, I can agree in principle. I think that we have to ask for the ability to contact one of our assistant solicitors to ask the questions, but we have to go through the mayor in order to get that individual to reply to us. Some people can call the city solicitor and get an answer, and some people can't. And I'm not naming any names or anything like that, but to have an attorney, do you want the attorney at every meeting? Through the chair to
Councilor Turco.
That was not my intent, to have the attorney. I think to have the attorney, I can, this is not a motion, but my intention was to add this position under section 2-12. It would be point 2, 2-12.2, under the Assistant City Clerk, Clerk of Committees, under Article 2. And essentially what it would say was the council attorney shall act as the attorney of the council and its committees. Subsection A, there is hereby established the position of council attorney. Subsection B, upon the recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee, the City Council shall appoint the council attorney for a term of 3 years. And subsection C, the position of council attorney shall be under the direction of the council and shall be generally supervised by the City Council Legal Affairs Committee. So that was my intent, to have that available to the Legal Affairs Committee, not, in general like a melee, like, hey, we want him here every night, or, let's get him in here tomorrow. I think that we could, if we have a legal discussion that needs to be had, we could refer it to Legal Affairs and have that attorney appear before Legal Affairs at the request of the Legal Affairs chairman or committee. That was my intent. Whether we adjust that, that's fine. But
thank you, Councilor, for the clarification.
Councilor Gamache, you still have the floor.
I just don't. I think that the duties of the assistant city solicitors that we currently have should be revised under the guise of the mayor in the legal department to allow for him or her, whoever it may be, that is currently there within a position, to gain those responsibilities for the city council, to have them act as our legal person or lawyer, whoever you want to call it, solicitor. Whether we create another position on a fourth one, you just said that, some of these are part-time, but just add their duties. Just add to their duties that they're responsible to be the clerk or the legal entity for the city council, and we'll go for there. Another thing is, if you bring an attorney to a meeting, a good attorney's not going to give you an answer right away. He's going to go back and he's going to say, I've got to look at it. And it might take 2 weeks until the next meeting to get that information public. So, to expedite things doesn't necessarily mean we have to create a new position. What I'm trying to get at is, I think that we should redesign, or the mayor should redesign, the responsibilities of our current solicitors and have them accept those responsibilities, what the council is asking for. So in that vein, I can't support it. Thank you.
Councilor Turco, you had a response, and then we're going to go to Councilor Peach and Councilor O'Neill.
thank you. Yeah, through you to Councilor Gamache. I mean, it's just, I see your point, but it's the foundation of government, where we have a legislative body and we have an executive branch, and that's every level of government. We are the legislative body. Every legislative body in the history of man has had representation given to them separate from that of the legislative branch, because sometimes they conflict, and what's best for one is not best for the other. And that's just American History 101. And what you're suggesting is that we take an assistant city solicitor hired by the executive branch, who's budgeted by the executive branch, and technically chosen by the executive branch to represent us. And that conflict still exists between the two. It will always exist if we do it that way. We need to hire on our own. If we want to eliminate one of the assistant city solicitors from the budget, we can do that, and then we could add it to this side. I'm not suggesting that, but if it's a monetary concern for you, that's some potential there. But to use the same city solicitors that we already have just totally defeats the purpose of the ordinance or my intent here, because we still won't get the decisions that are for our benefit.
And then Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with Councilor Turco in principle. I do think we do need an attorney. Through you to Councilor Turco, I don't know if you know this answer, but is there a way, instead of them being a city employee, that they're contracted so they're not eligible for benefits? It's just a large added cost. It's not just the 50 grand, it's the additional benefit cost. So I don't know if that's a possibility. I'd be more apt to support it at that point. But adding another person to the payroll of city government, I know none of us want to do that at the budget constraints that we're facing.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I did think about that, but I think the costs, looking at some other cities, i.e. Everett and Lynn, that both have council attorneys, and they don't have funds to draw off for legal expenses. I think the reason behind it is the hourly wage of attorneys is so intense that you would draw through $50,000 in no time flat, maybe on one issue, whereas if you have an employee such that we do have already assistant city solicitors, most of those lawyers have their own practices and hold the city jobs in addition to their own practice. So I think financially for us, it wouldn't make sense to have one or two issues draw off $50,000 and then we're done for the year. And whereas we could hire for $50,000, as we've proven, we've done it on the city side, and we have that for the incomplete 365 days available to us. I mean, I guess, I could see your side of it. I prefer not to hire new additions also, but this is an important one to me. And I think it ultimately, everybody here, I think, as I said at the beginning, has had some issue where they needed this. And, I just don't want to let it go by the way. So we've talked about it for years, and it's just never gone anywhere. Nobody's ever put the motion forward, ultimately. So I just would like to see it move forward. Thank you.
Councilor Peach, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. That explanation, I didn't think of it that way, and it makes a lot of sense, so thank you.
Councilor O'Neill, then Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I'll just give my personal perspective, that's all I can do at this point, then give it kind of where I'm coming from. I certainly, everyone has their own personal experiences, professional. I know that I've been on the council for 4 years, and I've had no issues with, in any of the cases we've been involved with, whether the city has been sued, or the legal advice that we've received as a council, in my own personal perspective, and that's over 4 years now. I would hesitate even voting for authorizing a position or funding a position for $50,000 or whatever the amount is, base plus benefits, without any discussion about the position, what the needs are. Some councils are bringing up valid points about being represented, but I know in this job, if the city is sued and I'm sued as part of that based on the decision I make on this council, I'm going to be indemnified and protected by the city of Peabody. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. If this, through my own malfeasance or negligence, that's on me personally. So that's not a city issue, and I don't need an attorney for the city to help me make decisions. That's why we have a city attorney who looks at everything and does what's right for the city and our residents. That's who we work for at the end of the day. If to Councilor Gamash's commentary regarding if there's a better way to work with the mayor and the solicitor's office to get a better product that helps the council do its job better, I'm all for that. But I will not support, at the drop of a hat, just hiring an attorney because some of us are concerned about things that may have happened a few years ago. Hasn't happened to me, so I have no reason to support that any further. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think if I understood the intent by Councilor Turco, there was a motion to request an appropriation, and then there'd be a second motion to basically send this to committee where we could vet it more thoroughly. I'm looking at this from a time sensitivity standpoint. If it's something that councilors think there's any merit to whatsoever, I think we should request the appropriation because we're coming up on budget time. So if we don't do it now, we're going to miss a window of opportunity, and we'll be talking about this again next year, perhaps. So, I don't see the harm in requesting the appropriation. If we decide between now and when the budget comes down that we don't think it's a good idea for whatever reason, we don't have to approve it. We could carve that out at budget time, but I think I'd rather see the appropriation come through from the mayor if he honors the request of the council, so that we have the option. And I think we can vet the various pros and cons of this when we bring this to committee, and we can decide as a body how we want to move forward or not with this. So my intent would be to support the request now for the appropriation on the assumption we're going to further review this in committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anybody else? Because I have some thoughts. Seeing none? Okay. So I understand the need. However, when you're establishing a new legal counsel to represent either a specific board or commission, it really needs to be structured. So one reason why I think this would require further vetting is I actually not sure if the amount that's being discussed would be either too much or too little. One reason why you don't use contracted legal counsel for a situation like this is because it limits your ability to operate. You have to have a structure on who can contact the legal counsel. How can you do so in a way that's not going to, violate any billable hours and whatnot? I see cities and towns consistently limiting their use of legal counsel due to cost when they contract. That's why in-house legal counsel is actually an advantage. Now, my view is more that a member of the city solicitor's office should actually be fully assigned to boards, commissions, and the council. Even then, I think we would want to establish some structure around that on how they can contact them. What you don't want to do is politicize the legal counsel over a specific issue, and pit them between counselors as they would be representing us should we be sued by a petitioner or any other action that's taken. So I think it's reasonable to have somebody with us. I think a great example is using Attorney Barrett with what we're doing with the charter. He was assigned for that task. So dealing with him has been with that committee of the whole, he's dealing with those specifically. Now that's a very narrow view on that end. However, anytime a legislative body is going to have legal counsel, you need very strict structures around that. Because it can be politicized and it can actually hurt any sort of legal case that is brought against that legislative body if it is not strictly adhered and policies and procedures in place. That's just been my experience. I have seen it happen with select boards and other city councils where there is open disagreement with regards to legal opinions, and then it can be politicized between the two. I do believe that there is supposed to be a tug between the executive and the legislative, and I think that's where the assignment of legal counsel to just give straight facts to this body. Secondarily, you would also have to establish, would these be the folks that would defend us if we were ever sued, or we're going to have a memorandum of understanding with the city solicitor's office, and how would that work? So these are really technical, is what I'm getting. There we go. Yeah, that was me. Wrap it up. So anyway, that's my views on that for this evening. I think it's a reasonable discussion to have, but I would really want to see what kind of guardrails we would put on it. All right, so we do have a motion on the floor from Councilor Turco. Any other discussion since we lost there? So, Councilor Rosnell.
Just for clarification, we're only talking about appropriation.
Yes, that was you have multiple motions, correct, Councilor?
Correct, yes. The first motion, I believe, is already on the floor for, to request the appropriation.
Okay, very good. So we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
No.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
No.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
No. Councilor Turco?
Motion carries 7-3.
Motion carries. Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. The second motion would be to refer the issue of retaining a a city solicitor on behalf of legal representation for the city council to the Legal Affairs Subcommittee and to amend the discussion to amend Article 2, Section 212.
Thank you, Councilor. So this is referencing this to the Legal Affairs Subcommittee, that issue. We're going to send this to committee.
Correct. Okay. And the structure that you mentioned, yes.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Turco, you still have the floor.
I have no further motions, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a co-motion with Councilor Peach to request that Mayor Betancourt and Kurt Bellavance from Community Development come before us and make a presentation on our subsidized housing inventory, safe harbor status, our 10% status, how those units are counted, and anything else that pertains to affordable housing, kind of not only for the council, but a 101 for the general public. We talk about this stuff and use these acronyms all the time, and I think it wouldn't hurt to get an update for the general public for this. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Daigle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed to vote? Councilor Daigle.
No further motions, Mr. President, but I am going to make one quick public service announcement. I am happy to announce that in Ward 4, we are going to establish a Ward 4 scholarship program in memory of Bob Driscoll. So I know it's a little late in the scholarship season. We're working out criteria for the future. This year, we are going to award 2 Ward 4 residents $500 each. So please, if you know any Ward 4 students, spread the word. We'll be making a formal announcement when we finalize the criteria and hope to award these on or around 4th of July. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Daigle. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you. Through you to Councilor Daigle. Are these current seniors, or could they be college students? Do you have the criteria?
Through Mr. President to you, we are working on that. I think the thought was graduating seniors, but I have a team of people who have we've spoken with some people that worked on the Bob Driscoll. He used to have a scholarship program 6 years ago, so we're kind of working on that, what's involved with the application process, what we need, the review committee, interview committee, so we will announce that once finalized.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Anything else, Councilor Daigle?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And just as a reminder, Tuesday at 6:15, we're going to be doing the committee of the whole for the charter. We're going to be finishing the motions we received finishing the communications that we received from Attorney Barrett regarding Article 2, and then we're going to get into Article 3, which is the mayor. So that's just Tuesday at 6:15. And seeing
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. All in favor, any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.